but we begin with sucking up to a turncoat. That's right. Our lead this hour coming from Pro Bouncy Ball. The showcase game in the NBA this week is on Wednesday night in Houston. Brooklyn is in the house for a midweek slobber knocker. Now, you say slobber knocker, the Rockets are not only an NBA team, they're terrible. Brooklyn has taken off, and they are now the big bad beast of the East. But this is all about the return of James Harden. Probably knew that, and it's the juicy subplot that has emerged. Now, this involves plans by the Rockets to honor the beard. I don't know if you saw this or not. Perhaps you missed it, but we have learned the Rockets plan to retire James Harden's number 13. Let me repeat that. The basketball team in Houston is planning to retire James Harden's number 13. Now, the Rockets owner there, Tillman Fertitta, he let the cat out of the bag in a prepared statement saying that James Harden will always be a Rocket. Interesting, because I saw him play the other night. He was wearing Brooklyn on his chest. He said this via text message. He went on to say, the Rockets owner, of course, we will retire his jersey. He made my first 3 years of owning this franchise unforgettable. Whee! Quote continues. The success that Harden brought to this franchise over 8 years and the memories he created for our fan base are truly remarkable. Close quote. All right, so Harden was in Houston for, as the owner referenced there, 8 seasons, parts of 8 seasons, and now he will be the 11th Rockets player there to have the uniform retired. Actually, he's the 11th player to wear number 13. He will be the last. Some of the other players that wore number 13 include the great Ish Smith, Von Wafer. My favorite kind of wafer is a Von Wafer, and Kelvin Cato. Couple of legends in the NBA. So let us discuss the question in front of us right now. It's an obvious question. The Rockets retiring James Harden's number 13 in the near future. Good call, bad call. All right. So this isn't just bad. This is so terrible. It's cringeworthy is what it is. I've got 2x4 tire salesmen and dinner reservations. And we will connect all of this together. Now, first of all, when this story came across my radar, when I saw it, my initial reaction, my visceral reaction was fake news, right? I was convinced this was satire, that this is the work of the Babylon Bee or Sports Talk Barry, someone along those lines. It turns out this was authentic. So just when you thought the status of Houston pro sports could not get any lower, the Rockets said, hey, hold my beer. All right, so this is such a fanboy move by the Rockets owner. We hope that someone, of course, metaphorically, takes a 2x4 to this guy's head and knocks some common sense into that. Can you imagine what this franchise is doing? They're planning a big, fat, wet kiss on James Harden, who left. Right, it's like having a boyfriend girlfriend situation in a relationship, and the other person leaves for someone they perceive to be better looking, and then you're like, well, I'll love them forever, and listen, I got I'll always honor them. That's what's happening here. James Harden took the temperature of the room in Houston. He said, these guys are a bunch of bums. These are dogs with fleas, my teammates. So I'm not going to win with these guys. I want to go to the sexier team. Brooklyn is the sexier team. Now, secondly, so James Harden, to retire his number is the total wrong move on many levels, but he is symbolic of a failure. Why would you celebrate that, right? Rockets basketball in this era has been a big tease. Who likes a big tease? You like a tease as long as there's a payoff. There was no payoff to James Harden. When you think of the legacy of the beard in Houston, you know what he is? I had an epiphany. It came to me. James Harden is a human caterpillar. He's a historically great stat bandit who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But he turns into a butterfly in big moments and flies away. He just flies away. He also He never played well with other stars in Houston, which is weird because he seems to be perfectly fine in Brooklyn with the other stars they have there. But the Rockets attempted to pacify James Harden. They brought in Dwight Howard, Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, players that were at the top of their class in the NBA at the time they went to the Rockets. And all of them came to town with a lot of fanfare, pomp, and circumstance, and every one of them was excommunicated because of James Harden not being able to share the rock or the spotlight, for that matter, with those other stars. Now, to pour battery acid on top of the open wound, James Harden turned into a tire salesman to shove his way out of the great state of Texas. He plumped up to the body double of the Michelin Man. Right? He became the Michelin Man at the end with the Rockets. Houston ended up essentially giving Harden away to the Nets, the team that he had a hissy fit because he wanted to play with that team. So they ended up giving Harden what he wanted. He got he got the team that has a chance to win a championship, and the Rockets were left holding a bag of oodles and noodles that was thrown in by Marcel in Brooklyn, our caller of the year. All right, final thought. So I have no skin in the game with the Rockets. It's actually good for the show that they are run by a lightweight, right? This is such a soft serve move. It's really good for a hearty belly laugh. It really is good for a hearty belly laugh. And when I become the czar of sports, I've said this for many years, I will end the dopey, corny tradition of retiring uniform numbers. We have advocated for many years behind the bully pulpit here on Fox Sports Radio that honoring a person's name is much more meaningful than some digits on a piece of laundry. That is your identity, your name, the name your parents gave you. That is your identity. So you have a problem, you have to get a resolution. That's why we're here, right? We have a simple solution. Call it the easy fix. We support all of professional and college sports embracing the tradition known as the Ring of Honor. Now, many sports teams in the NFL in particular already have the Ring of Honor. But until you get a sea change across the board, which it's going to take a while, can we please at least follow the rule where two of the three basic criteria have to be met for you to get your jersey retired? I think I know the formula here. I've looked at the cheat code. You don't have to be Albert Einstein to know what's going on here. But if you're going to put an athlete on a pedestal retiring their number, you have to do two of the following three things. You have to be a headliner on at least one championship team. You have to be a Hall of Famer, or the third criteria, which is very difficult to accomplish, you have to die tragically, right? And then they will retire your number in memorial. In fact, if you look at Europe, many of the international soccer players that have had their numbers retired is because they died in a plane crash or something, tragic, unforeseen event. For many years, I have been the lone voice in the night pointing out how silly this tradition is in America. We call it the hero worship package, number retirement statue made out to be a mythical figure. Now, James Harden, the good news here, my man James Harden, he likes to eat. He can have dinner reservations with some other mind-boggling basketball players who have also had their jersey retirements. Did you know Dikembe Mutombo, Cookie Monster, has had his jersey retired by two teams, the Atlanta Hawks and the Denver Nuggets? He didn't win a championship with either one of those teams. He's a Hall of Famer, fine, but he's still alive. Buck Williams, for some very mediocre New Jersey Nets teams back many years ago, his number was retired. Zydrunas Ilgauskas of the Cavaliers has his number retired. Yao Ming with the Rockets. There's another one. Peja Stojakovic, Vlade Divac. My favorite, though, is the big burly white guy from the Utah Jazz of the 1980s, Mark Eaton. His jersey is retired. There are only two teams that have no retired jerseys or no known plans to retire jerseys. That would be the People's Team, the Clippers, who do it right, and the Toronto Raptors. Now, Memphis does not have technically at this moment any retired jerseys, but we are told they are planning to retire Zach Randolph's jersey. Zach Randolph's jersey is going to be retired, and several others there in Memphis. So, I mean, my goodness. Now, meanwhile, we have a toss-up question. Two of the darlings of the NBA, both taking it on the chin in the NBA action on a Tuesday night. You had the people's team, the Clippers, shorthanded without the great Kawhi Leonard on a load management, didn't play against the Celtics, and still it was a one-possession game late, and the Celtics ended up pulling it out 117-112. You had the Phoenix Suns, who, listen, the Suns are a better team this year, but they didn't have Devin Booker. Devin Booker got ejected in the third quarter, and they stuck it to the Lakers at Staples Center, a 10-point roadie win for the Phoenix Suns. So the toss-up question, more humiliating, more degrading loss? It's obviously the Lakers. It's obviously the Lakers on several levels here. But you know, the Clippers, this is a throwaway for the Clippers. Any game Kawhi Leonard doesn't play, I have very little interest in. Kawhi Leonard is the Clippers. They came up with some bull crap, excuse injury, back spasms or whatever. You get a massager back out there, and he didn't play. And the Celtics had their guys out there, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, their two all-stars. And Jason Tatum played terribly, shot the ball very poorly in this game. And the Celtics, though, overall shot the ball very well. Both teams shot the ball particularly well. But the Clippers leading going to the fourth quarter without Kawhi Leonard, that's actually something to build on, considering Kawhi Leonard is the Clippers. He's the entire operation there, without a doubt. And so you look at that and contrast that with the Lakers, and again, the Lakers are falling apart. The low information fans, so they won a couple games over the weekend, so they're back. But 2-5 the last 7 games for the Lakers. That's an under 300 winning percentage for the Lakers of late. They are drowning. The Lakers are drowning, and this is more evidence of that. And I'd be very surprised if they do not finish behind the Phoenix Suns, who are just one game back of the Lakers in the loss column, because Anthony Davis is going to milk this. He's not coming back anytime soon. They're going to reevaluate it in a couple of weeks, and I'd be shocked if he plays more than a couple of games in the regular season the rest of the way. I'd be very surprised knowing this guy's history. He's Humpty Dumpty. That is who Anthony Davis is, and the Lakers are clearly dependent. They're clearly dependent on him. So good luck. Good luck on that. And that starting backcourt for the Lakers, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Dennis Schroeder, combined to go 7 of 24 from the floor. I don't think that's good, by the way. I don't think that's particularly all that efficient.